14 years ago, Tottenham released their first plans to build a brand new billion-dollar stadium. It looked insane, more futuristic than anything we'd ever seen before. And everyone, including myself, thought, well, this is never gonna happen. Yet, 14 years later, I'm sat in the stadium exactly as it was designed.
We're about to play Brighton.
Anyway, this had me thinking, what's next? So I've been doing some digging and I found the 3 coolest future stadiums that we know are being built and will be ready for us to use soon. So to kick things off at number 3, we're going to Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi investment in football over the last few years has grown exponentially. And with that, we've seen tons of new stadiums planned to be built there over the next decade. In fairness, they all look amazing, but the one that stands out to me as the most impressive is the Qiddiya Stadium. This 45,000 capacity stadium will be built by 2027 in the city of Riyadh and will be home to Ronaldo's current team, Al Nassr. And while Ronaldo himself will never get to play here, whoever does will be extremely lucky, because it looks insane. I mean, compare it to the stadium they already occupy, I mean, it's night and day. Now, the developers plan for this stadium to be the first in the world with a sloped dome, cutting off practically all of this stand. And while initially you might think this is just a cheap gimmick, it actually serves a really cool purpose, because this stadium is only a smaller part of a much larger Saudi project known as the Qiddiya Village, which will be home to not only the stadium, but also a theme park, a water park, a golf course, and a racetrack, all in this one location. Think of it as Thorpe Park, but on steroids. And the idea is that once the stadium's complete, the empty stand will open up the view of the entire village to you sitting in the stand. Now, I get the argument that when you're in the stadium, you'll be watching the game, not the view, and taking the stand away just compromises the amount of people that you could fit in. But I just love the outside of the box thinking with the design here, and I definitely think the village as a whole is a great idea. Which, who knows, maybe we'll see Premier League clubs using similar ideas when building their own future stadiums one day. But if you thought that design was cool, wait till you see number 2, for which we're headed to China, where the stadium architects over there are playing with the idea of a 100,000-seater football stadium. And this is what they've come up with, the Evergrande Stadium in Guangzhou. Just for context, this would make it the largest football stadium on the planet, overtaking the Nou Camp in Barcelona. Before anyone says the Rongrado Stadium in North Korea, yes, that's still the largest stadium in the world at 114,000 capacity, but it hosts multiple events, not primarily football, so it doesn't count here. Anyway, it's appropriately being referred to as the Lotus Flower Stadium, and what makes the design even cooler is that those petals curve around and into each other as they reach the top of the stadium, meaning that they not only act as the framework, but also the roof too. And as you can imagine, this thing is going to cost a lot, with current projections coming in at 1.7 billion, which is about double the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And this is where we run into the problem. Because the stadium's going to cost so much, it's actually run its initial developers way too far into debt. And as a result, they've already had to halt construction and they've handed it over to the Chinese government. The stadium was actually supposed to be ready this year, but because of these delays, it's going to be a long time before we start to see it getting built. And while the Chinese have said that they plan on achieving that proposed capacity of 100,000, there are rumors that the designs have switched to this slightly more modest one, which, if true, is such a shame because the original is one of the coolest things I've honestly ever seen. But the Chinese are probably more interested in getting this thing built than running themselves into even more debt, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here. Okay, are you ready for the coolest football stadium you've ever seen? It's this. Hear me out. So it looks just like a regular normal stadium at first glance, right? But as you move in closer, you realize that the entire thing is made out of wood. This is Eco Park, the future home of Forest Green, who are currently in League One. And Forest Green prides themselves in being the greenest club in world football, so building an eco-safe stadium where everything is designed to be as sustainable as possible does fit in with their branding. As well as the 500 trees and the 2 kilometers of hedgerows that are going to be planted around the stadium, it will also have electric car and bike charging stations on site. And while designs are still being finalized, it's very clear that this stadium is optimized for one thing: sustainability, which is just so important to note because I genuinely believe that this stadium will cause a massive ripple effect of similar stadiums like it. Think about it, with football clubs already under environmental scrutiny through projects like the Green Weekend, I think something like this being built is just going to create a future standard for which future stadium developers down the line are going to be forced to meet. Because if you don't, well then every news outlet in the country is going to start labeling you as someone who just doesn't care about the environment, which is why we're already seeing similar plans unfold for stadiums in Serbia. And if the 2000s were all about who could build the biggest stadium and the 10s are all about who could build the most modern stadium, I think this next decade will be about who could do both of those things plus being environmentally safe at the same time. Thanks for watching.